Hey everyone, I'm Nate Medina. I help college students get internships and jobs in marketing. I'm a marketing manager at HubSpot, and I've worked in marketing at Facebook and Google. Holy crap, guys, I got my first comment by Juan Carlos. He said, interesting video. I recently uploaded a video sharing how focusing on progress instead of perfection has helped me reach more of my goals. I sometimes get sidetracked from my goals, but I remind myself of the progress that has already been made and I get back on track. And I love that. I love what he said there about falling in love with the process so that he doesn't get distracted from his longer term goals. So that's really cool. Juan, thank you so much for the comment. I really appreciate that. Today, we got a lot to talk about. I'm going to talk about why, as a marketer, growing something, you need to start off small. You need to define a niche in which you can be an expert in. We're going to start with some examples. So we have Ali Abdaal, a YouTuber actually, and then we're going to dive into some examples using Amazon, Facebook, Airbnb, and Kuby to show why targeting a niche when you first start out is better than going after a big audience. Then I'm going to cover other important lessons from the book Atomic Habits. These are guiding principles that I'll follow as I start to build this YouTube channel. This is my second video of the show, so let me know if you have any feedback along the way. Okay, first let's start talking about the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. In my first video, I talked about goals versus systems to start off the series. If you want to learn why it's important to build out your systems first, go check out that video. Today, I want to talk about 5 other lessons from that book, and I'll be following these throughout this YouTube series. These are the 5 lessons, and for me, they were very eye-opening because I got to see how I could apply what I may already been doing with the habits that I've had to these frameworks that James presents. At the same time, I also learned how I can improve upon my own habit formation of good habits and also avoid bad habits through this book. The first lesson here is informing an identity about what it is that you want to do. The idea is that behavior change starts with an identity change. What you want to do is you want to change your identity first. So for example, you want to say, I'm the type of person who is this instead of I'm the type of person who wants this. You're using pride and ego in a strategic way here to your advantage in forming habits. A quick example of this is from filmmaker Robert Rodriguez. Check out a clip from his 10-minute film school.
Okay, so you want to be a filmmaker?
Yes.
Wrong. You are a filmmaker. The moment you think about that you want to be a filmmaker, you're that. Make yourself a business card that says you're a filmmaker, pass them out to your friends. As soon as you get that over with and you got it in your mind that you're one, you'll be one. You'll start thinking like one. Don't dream about being a filmmaker. You are a filmmaker. Now let's get down to business.
Robert applies a similar approach to habit formation. Start by changing your identity. You want to get a marketing internship? You're a marketer. You want to read a book a week? You're a reader. Change your identity and your mind will work in forming habits that fulfill that identity. So going forward, getting into this whole YouTube thing, right? Instead of I'm creating videos every day, I'm having to do that, my mindset will be I'm a YouTuber, right? And that'll help me with the identity flip to progressively start creating these videos more constantly. The second lesson here is make good habits obvious and make bad habits hard. This one was really eye-opening because I've never really thought of it until James spelled it out very clearly. Basically, you want to make any habit that you want to do again easy to do. So if you want to work out more, for example, make it easy to get into your workout clothes, like putting on your running shoes near your bed. And if you want to play guitar, put your guitar next to your bedstand. My roommate, for example, is learning how to play guitar and he practices every single day and it's loud and annoying at sometimes, but I admire his ability to sort of stick with it. And the reason he's able to do it is he sets his guitar right next to his bed for easy access. If it was tucked away in his closet or hidden somewhere, he probably wouldn't be playing it every day. Now, the exact opposite is true for bad habits. For bad habits, right, that you don't want to repeat, make those extremely hard to start the activity. So if you want to game less on your PS4, put your console in your closet after each use. That's just one example, right? This makes it harder to sort of drag out the console the next time you want to play it. So in a way, you're making the habit hard to start if you ever see the cue to start it again, which is, hey, my console's connected to my TV in my living room. All I have to do is grab my controller versus, hey, I have to pull out a console from my closet, plug it in, all that stuff, and then play. That's much harder, so it might make you less tempted to actually start that habit if you don't want to repeat it again. The third thing is focus on taking action, not being in motion. So this one was a big one for me. Let's define the difference between motion and action. So first of all, motion he describes as planning something, strategizing, and learning, right? So an example is like outlining articles, outlining YouTube videos for myself. It's a way where we feel like we're making progress, but we're actually not, right? We're actually delaying failure. So by being in that state of planning and not actually doing and creating and getting our stuff out there, we're actually intentionally delaying failure, because while we could be worrying less about being perfect with our content or perfect with whatever we're trying to release, we're in this state of planning and trying to get that perfect instead of actually releasing it. Now, action, on the other hand, is sort of the opposite, right? Where it's behavior that delivers an outcome. So, for example, write an article and get it out. Another example is produce a YouTube video and get it out, right? Instead of planning and strategizing, just do it and see what happens. As you may know from my first YouTube video where I talk a little bit about how I felt at my goals for 2019, I was in motion basically for over a year before I decided to take action. I didn't muster up the confidence to start producing videos, and instead I spent time researching how to perfect my voice, how I could replicate the success of other channels, and I spent too much time trying to be perfect. And sure, while these are helpful, right, they didn't get me to produce videos faster. David Perel, a big writer on Twitter, says, "The internet rewards people who work fast. If you're a software developer, learn to code fast. If you're an online writer, learn to write fast. If you're an online creator, learn to design or make videos fast." And the reason is because the internet doesn't reward perfection, because the cost to distribute ideas is basically $0, right? You can buy hosting for practically nothing and get a website out very easily. You can also start releasing YouTube videos really easily without a big expense. And the algorithm here, in this case, rewards people who publish all the time. So quantity over quality in this case, in YouTube determining which videos and channels perform better than others. At the end of the day, sometimes it just comes down to who is producing the most content for something, because then it allows the algorithm and people to find out what actually sticks. The way I see it personally, right, research and planning, I think they're important, but action, I agree, is always going to be better, because you want to learn what works and what doesn't faster. It's a way of iterating faster. The fourth lesson here is that new habits should take less than 2 minutes to do. So you want to get easily into this groove of this new repetition. And he actually recommends start off very, very slowly, right? With only 2 minutes. So for example, if you want to start reading every night before bed, instead of, trying to set your goal to read 30 minutes a night, only read 2 pages, right? Or actually, he even says start with 1 page before bed. Just read 1 page, start slowly. And then the next day, again, read a page. The day after that, if you want, you can read 2 pages, so on and so on. But he says, make it so easy that it only takes 2 minutes to do your habit that you want to start repeating over and over again, as a way to get into the groove of repetition. The fifth lesson here is to set your expectations for the long term. So as we talked in the first video a little bit, we talked about how rewards won't come quickly in the short term, right? Most of our rewards will come in the long term. So you have to fall in love with the process of boring, because sometimes these things are boring. Kuby and Michael Jordan, they shot, I don't know how many thousands of shots each day because they wanted to be the best they can in their field. And at a point, I think Kuby and Michael Jordan would admit that process was boring, but they fell in love with it. So you want to show up every day. And that's what I'm doing with this daily series. I want to show up every day, even though the process might not be, the easiest to do, because my schedule is pretty busy. But I want to see how I can grow this YouTube channel, and I want to see how I can help thousands of people get a job in marketing. Great. Now I'm going to talk about why I'm focusing on marketing internships and jobs for college students rather than creating another YouTube channel talking about marketing, right? I want to start off with an example from Ali Abdaal. If you don't know him, you probably will soon. Ali is a junior doctor working in Cambridge, and he's a YouTuber. He grew his channel to 800,000 subscribers in 2 years. He says he was able to do this because he started with a niche instead of being broad. So for example, he started by making videos about how to take a medical school entrance exam for people applying to 4 medical schools in the UK. Then he started making videos on school interview prep. Then he grew his audience around college students wanting to get into medical schools. Then he started producing videos about productivity. So he got to the student market. Then he knew that students want to do well on tests and enjoy life. So he knew that productivity was another thing that these students really wanted to learn how to do and how to get better at. So he started creating videos about productivity, apps, and gadgets, which eventually got him to the tech audience. So he made a video around iPads, how to use his iPad effectively, which sort of blew up his channel. And the key lesson here is that when you're abroad, no one really knows you. You really speak to no one. But when you're specific, right, when you get really into the nitty-gritty of your audience, then you're speaking to someone. Even if no one knows you, you'll be able to connect more easily with your audience because you're focusing so closely on what they actually care about. The internet rewards people who start off specific. Ali didn't start by trying to produce productivity videos. The market was already saturated with so many productivity videos. Instead, he produced videos about a specific medical test that students in the UK take. And he was so specific that he applied that to only 4 types of universities that take this test. So it's very, very niche, or niche, as he likes to say. Let's apply this concept to tech companies. You may already know these stories, but I want to go over sort of how Amazon, Facebook, and Airbnb begun. And we can learn why starting off with a niche audience sort of works out well. So how did Amazon start? You may know this, but Jeff Bezos quit his job, very well-off job. He was working at a bank, and moved to Seattle to pursue what he believed to be an untapped opportunity in retailing, right, for the book industry.
Hi there, who are you?
I'm Jeff Bezos.
And what is your claim to fame?
I'm the founder of Amazon.com.
Where did you get an idea for Amazon.com?
Well, 3 years ago, I was in New York City working for a quantitative hedge fund when I came across the startling statistic that web usage was growing at 2,300% a year. So I decided I would try and find a business plan that made sense in the context of that growth. And I picked books as the first best product to sell online, after making a list of like 20 different products that you might be able to sell. And books were great as the first best, because books are incredibly unusual in one respect, and that is that there are more items in the book category than there are items in any other category by far.
He set up shop in Bellevue, Washington, and began developing software. However, he didn't start Amazon off as it is today, where it sells almost everything. No, he only sold books. So the online store only sold books. That was the difference, right? Because back in the day, you could buy a book in the bookstore, but you couldn't really buy books online. It wasn't something that was normal back then. So what helped was that he was the only one who sold books online at a time when no one else was doing it. That's sort of how he began his journey starting Amazon. He focused on selling books online, and slowly started expanding to different categories, which eventually got him to where he is today. So how did Facebook start? You might know the story already if you watched The Social Network or read about Mark Zuckerberg or any of the other Facebook stories. It all began in 2003 when Facebook's founder, Mark Zuckerberg, created an online program called FaceMash, which actually allowed users to objectify other students, right, by deeming if they were either hot or not. Eventually, Mark understood that there was a need for students wanting to connect online. There were other online directories available that featured photos of students along with some information about them, but it wasn't specific to Harvard, right? It was just a general online directory. And that's how sort of Mark Zuckerberg knew where he could fit in for Harvard, right? He could create an exclusive Facebook that only students of Harvard University could join. And on February 4th, 2004, the first iteration of Facebook was born. It was then called thefacebook.com, and it was made exclusively to Harvard students. Mark didn't start Facebook with the idea to connect millions of people around the world. No, he started with the idea to only connect Harvard students. Eventually, he spread to other universities, and then eventually to the public. How did Airbnb start? The year was 2007, and roommates Joe Gebbia and Brian Chesky couldn't afford their San Francisco rent. The pair knew a big design conference was coming up in San Francisco, and it was making hotels really hard to come by. And so it all started with an email. Gebbia wrote Chesky with an idea. What if they made their loft into a designer's bed and breakfast for the night? It would be complete with a sleeping mat and breakfast. It was a way to make a few bucks, right? For them, that's what they considered. And 12 years later, that idea is worth $31 billion. They created a simple site, airbedandbreakfast.com, bought 3 air mattresses, and arranged them in their loft. Kuby and Chesky soon realized how big their idea could be. They got together with the old roommate to build the business. The key here is that they didn't start off the idea of trying to connect homeowners with travelers around the world. No, they focused on serving one location during one event and proved that the idea works, and then slowly grew from there. Now I want to talk about Kuby. And if you're not familiar with Kuby, where have you been, first of all? But Kuby is a media tech company that offers original video content for mobile phones. The service launched in April for $5 a month, and you could get access to exclusive shows starring Liam Hemsworth, Christopher Waltz, Sophie Turner, and LeBron James. It was created by Hollywood mogul Jeffrey Katzenberg and veteran tech executive Meg Whitman. These two are rock stars in their field. If you don't know, Whitman was CEO of eBay and HP, and Katzenberg was an executive at Paramount Pictures and a chairman at Disney Studios. 2 months after Kuby's big splash, it's safe to say that the launch failed. In a New York Times article, Katzenberg blames the short-term failure of Kuby on the pandemic. He says, "I attribute everything that has gone wrong to coronavirus. Everything, but we own it." Kuby raised $1.8 billion from investors to create their original content and shows with star cast. They did the exact opposite of what Amazon, Facebook, and Airbnb did. You can probably tell Kuby started off big. They delivered a big benefit. They didn't focus on a narrow audience segment, and they targeted the millennial consumer base, especially since they ran Super Bowl ads. How was Kuby different from YouTube, Netflix, Instagram? It really wasn't. By trying to solve everything for everyone, it had no differentiation at all. The reason why Kuby failed was because it tried to be everything at first. It was promising what Netflix, YouTube, Instagram offer in their content, and it didn't carve out a similar niche to start off with. Just to give an example, if Kuby focused on a particular type of entertainment genre, so for example, if they only showed horror films or only comedies, I think they would have seen much more success because they wouldn't have had to raise so much money to fund the creation of their content. Another idea for Kuby would be to produce sports entertainment content, which would have blown up during a time when sports fans are dying to watch video content. Okay, so what can we learn from these examples here? There are 3 things that I want to communicate here, and these are sort of 3 things that I'm going to take with me in how I think about this YouTube channel. So the first is focus on one user benefit. For Amazon, as an example, it was selling books online, which meant that users could get delivery of books at a time when that really wasn't widely available. Or you can focus on one audience segment. So for Facebook, that meant creating a Facebook only specific to Harvard students. Also, you can be niche with location. So focus on serving an audience within one location. Airbnb served people with low budgets looking for housing for a conference in San Francisco. So specific. And to tie it all together here, Ali Abdaal, as another example, sort of hits on all 3 of these. He started by delivering guidance for medical entrance exams for 4 universities in the UK. That's one benefit, right? To help students pass these exams. He focused on one audience segment, which were students wanting to be doctors, and in one location in the UK. So what will I be doing for this YouTube channel? Well, I've decided to look back on my expertise that I've developed so far and what differentiates me from other people and how I think I can help serve an audience. My insight from sort of looking at these things and my experiences in my work, I constantly get asked by marketing students about tips and resources to get a job or internship in marketing. So I know that there's already a market of interested students wanting to learn more about this. Second thing here is that I have expertise in this field and I feel like I can deliver value to these people. For example, I studied business at UC Berkeley and focused my studies in marketing. I interned at Facebook and Google in marketing jobs, and I work as a marketing manager at HubSpot. So I know sort of firsthand what it's like going through this whole studying marketing process, trying to apply to jobs, trying to get internships, and I feel like I could help at least some marketing students in their journey to get the job that they wanted. So bringing these 2 together, I'm going to focus my content specifically at this niche. I thought about making it even more specific like this. So for example, targeting marketing students in California or certain universities. But for now, it'll just be marketing students in the US who are looking for their first internship or job in marketing in tech companies. For now, I think this audience is someone I can really help. And I'm curious to know what you think. Do you think this niche is not narrow enough? Do you think it's too big? Love to hear your thoughts there. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed episode number 2. If you haven't seen episode number 1, please check that out. It's where I talk a little bit more about my goals and why I started this channel. Subscribe to my YouTube channel to get episode number 3, where I'll talk about why Kuby failed, my marketing philosophy, and the top skills that I think marketing students should develop as they start their journey as a marketer. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.